the chairs are off center. I think it matches my feeling right now. It's a good sensibility. All right, I would love to bring back first the producers of We've Always Lived in the Castle, Jared and Goldman and Robert Michaels. All right.
Thank you.
And who would you like to bring up?
We would like to bring up our amazing cast, Taissa, Alex, and Crispin. We'd also like to invite up Lawrence Hyman and our writer Mark Kruger.
Excellent. And did you explain who Lawrence was?
Oh, Lawrence is Shirley Jackson's son. None of us would have been here without Lawrence.
Come towards the light, gentlemen. Towards the light. I've always wanted to say that. And I assumed it'd be at the end of someone's life. So this is much better. So I'm going to start with you guys, because producers are typically where things start. Although actually in this case, this began much longer with a book, as I mentioned, that I love so much, which is how I found this film in the first place. My friend Dave, who's here tonight, introduced me to it, so thanks, Dave. I want to know, how did you guys tie into working with Stacy and making this film? Because you both have amazing just film repertoires. Is that a thing? Can you guys just go with me that that's a thing? Your film repertoires are incredible.
So I'm the other half of Michael Douglas, who could not be here tonight, but he sends his well wishes. Mr. Douglas owns a company. It's a library that represents literary estates. So our mission is to adapt film books, classic American books, to the screen, and that's and the Jackson estate was a client of that library, and so. Yeah, it was our mission to make this book into a movie. And I met Mark Kruger at a general meeting, and I discovered that he had a passion for this title and had always wanted to do it, And then Mark wrote a script, and then Jared is someone that Michael and I worked with a lot, and Jared introduced it to Stacy, and it turns out Stacy had always loved the book, much like yourself. And during the whole journey to making this happen, we discovered that there were so many fans of the original title, and filmmakers and artists who love the material and just jumped on board, and we're grateful for that.
For that, I'm wondering for the talent. I love that term. We always call actors talent, which really is a nice dismissal of everyone else on set. But for you all, I'm wondering twofold. One, if you were familiar with the book before you read this. And then two, if you were familiar with Stacy's other work, because Stacy's a director who came up with a beautiful independent film called Concussion, and moving forward to this, and obviously ended up working with some lovely movie stars, and there's a great kind of leap of faith that has to happen when you're working with someone new. So I would love to hear about both the source material and Stacy that maybe connected with you.
Yeah. I was not familiar with the book. I knew of Shirley Jackson, but I had never read We've Always Lived in the Castle.
Did you read The Lottery in 8th grade?
I don't know if it was 8th grade, but yes, I've read it. And so I first read the script, and I immediately fell in love with the tone of it, which is, it's bizarre and it's twisted and foreboding, yet it also has this fairy tale quality to it, which I thought was such a beautiful contradiction. So I read the script, I loved it, I loved Maricat, I didn't understand her at all, and I wanted to. So I Skyped with Stacy, and I could just see how much passion she had and how much she loved the character and the story. And I found that we had a connection immediately over Maricat, and we just, I don't know, it just took off, and we had the starting place, and we could, it was almost like we could read each other's minds in regards to Maricat. So I didn't know Stacy's film Concussion, but I watched it after I Skyped with her, and then I read the book, and I just wanted the job incredibly badly, and I got it. And I don't know, that was that, and we filmed it.
So it all worked out.
Yeah.
Alexandra, did you have a similar journey?
Yes, I mean, I wasn't familiar with Stacy or with the book prior to reading the script, and then I read the script and I totally fell in love with the character, and I really identified with a lot of the themes in the script. And when I sat down with Stacy and watched her film, I immediately recognized her talent, and also I was so impressed by her competence and her sort of her willingness to take a leap of faith, and she had just incredible instincts, and I think that she saw the character in me, and I was incredible. It almost felt like it wasn't real. I was so happy to get this role that I was like, how is that even possible that I get to do this movie? So I'm really impressed by how it turned out, and it was an incredible experience, so I feel very lucky.
Crispin, I really need to think that you were familiar with Shirley Jackson.
No, I wasn't.
Man, you're killing me. Heartbroken. How about you? How did you come on board this?
It was I got the script as an offer, and I spoke with Stacy on Skype, and then I was originally reluctant to read the book because I can get overly particular about aspects. But there were some questions about the script had gone through some changes, so there were questions about an interpretation and that I was speaking with Stacy about, and we got things from the book. It changed a little bit while we were shooting, but I'm really pleased with how it came out.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I think you sort of spoke to it, there's a fairy tale quality, and I think one of the things in adapting something like this that can be tricky is that really elusive, combining something that's surreal and kind of absurdist and not of this world, but also really grounded. And was that something in both? I'd love to hear if you approached your characters in that kind of way, because there's a really stylized element to this. It's not theatrical and sort of playing to the back row, but it's less, I want you to sell this as if you're just a girl in a mall. You know what I mean?
Well, the language of the book, of course, it's a beautiful language, so it does have an otherworldly quality in some way, but it's really beautiful language to both read and play, because there's stuff underneath it. It isn't just that topical element.
Absolutely. This is one that I hope when you go home in a very literary way that you can look at every element, everything that she's buried, even the last exchange of, I wish I could eat a child, I don't know if I could cook one, and what that says to about their characters and their connection with each other. So I hope you get this and analyze it deeply like an English teacher would like you to. Did you guys find with playing these, because it's a period piece of sorts, and again, like it's stylized in a way. Do you approach things differently with a film like that?
I have a certain process personally that every time I go into a film, I think that the stylistic elements of the book and the script came, costume's such an important part of this too. Like you go into your fitting and you've been working on the script for months, and then you put on the clothes and get your hair done, and you start to feel it all comes together. It's this really incredible moment. So I really applaud, wardrobe and hair and makeup, and because and it's how you hold yourself, and I think the language, it's so well written that the language really helps you sort of become who these characters are. So that really helped me a great deal.
So, when you're living in this world that's almost fantastical in a way, but yet you're playing these real people. For me, you can't play that. You can't play the big. You can't play that. That stylization. You can't play it. You just have to play the feelings and emotion and what the characters are going through. So, that's usually left up to the director and art department and set deck and props and hair, makeup, wardrobe, and they make this beautiful landscape, and then you put these real people in it who are feeling things. They're true feelings. They might be exaggerated more than a normal person would feel, but you just be,
And down at the end, because I don't want to not get you guys in this, on the word side of things, were you excited to see your mom's work in this way?
Oh, very much so. And I obviously do know the book.
I didn't even bother.
I think this is a wonderful adaptation. I think Stacy's done a great job, and I'm very pleased with the cast. I think they really captured the essence of the story and the characters. When my wife and I went on the set in Ireland a couple of years ago, we were just struck with how appropriate the building was. It was just a wonderful location, and it too was a character in this movie, as often in my mother's books houses are. And I think that was captured. I think Stacy did a wonderful job. And again, I can't say enough good things about the cast. They were terrific.
We agree. We definitely agree. And then for the writer, so it sounds like you were also familiar with the novel, one would hope.
Yes.
Yes, okay, you took a passing glance.
Yes.
I think there's something about this film that even though it is a period piece and even though it has this fantasy gleam, there's a few different elements of it that I think are very contemporary. And one of those is the idea of otherness with the Blackwoods. And when you first meet them, there's maybe this inference that it's like socioeconomic, like it's a class divide, and then it ends up being so much more, and how they're treated. And towards the end, that last thing of Mary Cat being heckled, I was like, oh, this is this world where I live in now, where this is a tweet, and I'm normally not supposed to support this woman, but man, I really want her to take those hecklers down.
Right.
So I'd love to hear about your overall connection, but speaking to the idea of otherness and bringing that out in such a real way.
Well, that's what drew me to Shirley Jackson's work from when I was a kid. I discovered it from The Haunting.
Me too.
Yeah, The Haunting, and read everything that she wrote, and always fell in love with this book. And the one thing when Stacy came on board, we talked a lot about was why now? Why is this story relevant to today? Because it was written, in the early '60s, and it takes place when it was sort of supposed to be written. I mean, when the period in the movie. And it's eerie how spot on it feels now watching it, even though it was written several years ago. And when Stacy came on, we talked a lot about the why now, and this was before Trump was president, and how there were just those things that were already apparent in our culture. And that's why, very deliberately, there's a reference when Charles is in the bathtub reading a version of the National Review, which was going to be, because I had found this article that William F. Buckley wrote that was very much so on point from like 1959 that would have been, is exactly talking about what's happening now. And so that's really what Stacy helped bring out, in the interpretation and in the script, and it's already in the book. I mean, it's so much there. Shirley Jackson just wrote about these themes, and it's so spare and beautiful in the language, and it's funny and creepy, and also really poignant, really poignant. These two sisters who were sort of, you don't know who is saving who in the story. And that's what I loved about it, was the people that you think are the villains and the heroes and all that, and this has this fairy tale element that here comes Charles, the white knight to rescue the princess in the castle, when in fact it's the total opposite, and that you root for them. You root for these two sisters. And that's what I loved about the story, is that the underdogs, and sort of the bad seeds were the good seeds, basically. They're the ones you want to win.
To that end, I have a question for Jared and Robert. I think in you mentioning Charles is also a great segue of that. There's, like I said, you all need to go home and study this and read the book. But one of the really nicely developed undercurrents is the idea of who their father was and what he represented and what was the sort of inciting incident for the Sugar Bowl ordeal. And I think that's something else that really speaks to a very, literally today's news, like the news that's in your phone right now today, the idea of women or girls who are going through something and don't know maybe how to cope with it, or how to speak it and how they're treated as a result of it. And I'm wondering, on the producer side, was there something about that? Like, it's very, again, topical for something that happens to be a period piece.
Yeah, when we set out on this journey 2 years ago, we wanted to tell the story of two sisters who find their voice, who have been silent for so long with these family secrets they couldn't tell anybody. But along this journey, it erupts. Now today, yeah, you're seeing this happen all the time in the news. It's almost like John Blackwood is a lot of male authority figures that we've seen in the last 12 months. You know,
That's nice. That was perfectly vague.
Okay, thank you. Yes. I still want to work in this town, so I gotta be careful. But it also shows you like how when Shirley Jackson wrote this story in 1962, she was talking about things that she couldn't talk about. She was talking about things that we don't talk about. Now we talk about those things, and you see the Blackwood girls struggle with that, you know, because they're being misunderstood and they're being ostracized. And like I was saying earlier, like whenever we've met anybody while working on this film who knew the book, that was the thing, was that, you know, when they were at some point in their life when they were growing up, when they felt like they didn't fit in, when they felt like they didn't have a voice, when they felt like they were ostracized by the community, and the story of the Blackwood girls spoke to them, and that's the power of the tale. And I hope that people watch the movie and do discover that they do have a voice, that they can stand up. Don't burn your house down.
Yeah, perhaps
Okay.
not an arsenic voice.
Don't commit murder,
but a
but
voice
nonetheless,
yes.
stand up for yourself.
Well, I want to thank you all so much for being here. This was wonderful, and I was so proud to show this. So thank you so much for letting us.
So one last thing, the film was made in Manor Kilbride in Wicklow, Ireland, which is a B&B. So if anybody wants to go on vacation and stay in Mary Cat, Constance, Uncle Julian, or John, I guess I don't know, go on vacation.
And also, I mean, when you make a film, it's a community of everybody. First of all, we have to thank Great Point Media. We couldn't have asked for better partners and backers. Matt Stevens is here, and I think Nada's here somewhere. But this movie wouldn't have happened without Robert Helmy Jr. and Jim Reeves. And also to the entire crew in Ireland. They were fantastic. And made this thing come to life. They were incredible.
To Ireland!
Yeah.
All right. Thank you all so much. Please remember to vote on the way out. This is eligible for an audience award.